Good afternoon, Haiti Oropesa with Florida You Judge, and good day, everyone. With me, my co-host Stephanie Pointer. I've been out and about already. It's a beautiful day, so we have a great guest, Hillsborough County Judge Matthew Smith. He's been serving on the bench now for some time, and he is going to be on this election cycle's ballot. For Hillsborough County voters, this is going to be a good interview. He's come on, and we thank him. The public should be excited about a candidate actually seeking to have any opportunity to come and engage the voters so that you know about who are voting for and become more informed. That's a great thing. So, without further ado, we are going to have Judge Matthew Smith from Hillsborough County on with us in just a second. Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Afternoon, Haiti. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I'm excited that you're on, really. And in fact, I have to say, and maybe Stephanie doesn't know this, but I'm an attorney. That's my full-time day job. And in 2015 thereabouts, I engaged or put forth a lot of effort into reviving what had been a judicial survey years back here in Pinellas County primarily. I was able to get good, true believing attorneys that understand the importance of this third branch of government, the judiciary, and how important it is for voters to know who the judges are that are serving, that wish to serve. Family members of mine and friends would always tell me, I have no idea about this part of the ballot, the judges. I don't know who to select, Haiti. And that shouldn't be. That shouldn't be. So I undertook to do that. And then I kind of added then what became pre-recorded broadcast, brought in some judges who are now on the bench who, when they were running, would come on to inform the public, the voters. And I'm excited about doing that. So thanks for coming on with us. And so Stephanie always starts with her standard question, and that is
the basic Matt. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us what you do. Tell us why you're here, and why you think it's important.
Sure. Good afternoon, Stephanie. Thank you for having me on here. So again, my name is Matt Smith. I'm one of the Hillsborough County judges. We have 68 judges total in Hillsborough County. 25 are county judges, and I'm one of the county judges. What I'm doing right now is I preside over 3 divisions. One is the county civil division, which is anybody that's engaged in a lawsuit. Somebody's filed a lawsuit or is defending a lawsuit for anything up to $50,000. Primarily, most of that just tends to be a lot of landlord-tenant action, a lot of landlords filing for evictions, a lot of debtor-creditor, a lot of creditors out there trying to collect collections, if you will, but also a lot of contractual disputes, and that's county civil. I mean, again, it's any type of a civil action that's $50,000 or under. And it includes small claims. People ask, in county court, do you do small claims? Well, we do small claims, but we do anything up. Small claims in Florida is $8,000 and under. But we do handle things, like I said, all the way up to $50,000. A lot of first-party property insurance claims, a lot of what we typically in the business call windshield cases, a lot of PIP cases. So we handle a lot of those. So I preside over a division for that. And I have about 70% of the docket compared to what a judge that's a full-time judge in just county civil. For example, my good friend and colleague, Judge Jim Giardina, he's 100% county civil. All his cases are county civil. I think he's Division H, I want to say. And he has about 11,000 cases, whereas I have about 7,000 or 8,000. But in addition to that division, I also preside over what's called a Title IV child support enforcement. So Title IV means that the person that's receiving child support or the child is on governmental assistance, meaning receiving assistance from the government. And then the person ordered to pay child support, which is commonly the father, not always, but commonly the father. There's already an order of child support, whether it was from a divorce, whether it was from an agreement, whether it was from a paternity lawsuit, but there already is an order in there to pay child support, and that person is delinquent. And what the proper term is you'll use in the clerk's office is they're in arrears. There's an arrearage. And then with that current month or that month, they will fall, they may fall behind. And then there's a series of hearings that are held typically to see what to do with that. And the government gets involved, particularly the Florida Department of Revenue, and the government gets involved, and they will ask the courts to do something, maybe suspend a license, maybe even do a cash purge, which is a writ of bodily attachment, which is an arrest warrant, or someone will have to go to jail until they get current. When they get current, I don't mean they have to pay all their arrearage, if you will, but just get current in that month. But we also do other things. We in there we can stop a child support payments. Maybe the child's reached an age of maturity or something of that. So I preside over that division. Then lastly, and probably honestly most entertaining, is I preside over Civil Division T as in Tango. And that's any type of a ticket, citation, that's written in Hillsborough County or the city of Tampa for a code violation, whether it's a city code violation or county code violation, that's not a traffic citation and not like a parking ticket. So primarily that's animal court, that's code court. And again, any type of a citation for an ordinance. You know, if you live in the city of Tampa and you're watering your lawn on the wrong day, it's a $100 ticket. You want to fight that, you come to court. If you get a citation for loud music from a car, or maybe some type of a house party too loud, sound ordinance violations, those come in front of me. But again, primarily most of those are all animal court based, which is Chapter 6 in the county code, which was passed by the county commission. So animals at large, animals that haven't been vaccinated, animals that haven't been registered, animals that have act aggressively, bite somebody, maybe get off leash or get out of the house and go bite someone, or maybe attack another dog. We've had plenty, unfortunately, of animals that have killed other animals before. So that's animal court. And then also code court, which I call code court, is property or structures that are not within code. They can receive a citation for that. A violation of the fire marshal's code as well. Handle all of that. So overall, I preside over 3 divisions.
Wow.
And I've been doing that, for about almost 3 years now.
You work so hard, I need a nap from you describing.
No doubt. That's a lot. Yeah.
It is a lot.
Okay.
A whole lot. I've got 2 pages of notes already. Wow.
Landlord, tenant, that's important. And so I'm glad that you went through the series of all the different divisions and areas that you are currently presiding, because, and I hope that the people that are watching will be watching understand how important it is what judges do. Even tickets. It's important because tickets, even though it might seem a benign thing to have to go to court for, it could have certain impacts. Okay, what did you do? Have you been in those divisions for the 3 years, or did you do something before that?
Correct. No, I've not been in those divisions. So the county civil division that I preside over at V, as in Victor, Chief Judge Ronald Figueroa decided to open that up because we had a lot of filings that were going up in Hillsborough County. We opened that up in 2023. So I've been presiding over that division for, about 15 months now, 15, 16 months. Before that, the first year on the bench that I presided all in 2022 was what's called a dependency drug treatment court. And I have to say, honestly, I found it very, very rewarding and very, very interesting. There's been a trend in the court system to have a lot more, call them problem solving, call them therapeutic courts. We have a phenomenal veterans treatment court that Judge Shanti runs, that was run by Judge Wu.
Okay, you froze there for a second.
Judge Holder run phenomenally, one of the guys nationally. And
yes.
And so one of the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. Yeah, Judge Shanti was on last year, right around Veterans Day, and phenomenal court. That is a very phenomenal court.
And so, there's been a push to have more treatment court. I know that down in Sarasota, for example, they have a DUI treatment court, which is very select. It's very interesting. David, who is it? Judge Benkert, I think, does it. It's phenomenal. But the dependency drug treatment court, so it's an offshoot of dependency. So, of course, dependency is when the government believes that a child or children have been abused, neglected, or abandoned. So the children will be removed at least temporarily from the home. Now, depending on the circumstances, sometimes there's visitation, sometimes there's not. Sometimes, usually it's a family member that will then end up taking care of the children, or we have other caregivers. There's guardian ad litems that are appointed. But while that process is playing out, and while the government is trying to petition the court, whether it's to, in some cases to actually take away the parental rights of children, usually it's not that. It's usually trying to go ahead and get them on a parenting plan, get them on the path to success. But if one of the parents, just one of the parents, has a substance abuse problem, whether alcohol or drug related, while their case is still going on in regular dependency court, they would come down to a dependency drug treatment court. And then when I presided over it for a year, that's what I would do, exclusively that. So from a judicial perspective, it was a great opportunity to work with families, to work with parents. And what's so unique about that is that's one of the few places that everyone is on the same page, literally under the statute. And what we all are working for is reunification, which is putting that child or those children back with the kids. And so, even I think it's CLS that does it now, Child Legal Services. They used to be under the arm of DCF before. That lawyer is working for that. In theory, even the judge, who's a neutral magistrate, that's what we're working for. I'm not going to say there weren't any disagreements. Sometimes there would be disagreements, obviously, between Child Legal Services and the respondents and the parents. But the overall goal is to work for reunification. So I did that for a year. And honestly, the other aspect that I enjoyed is at the end of the day, if it was a situation where it wasn't going to work out and the parent or parents weren't able to get their act together, so to speak, the worst thing that would happen is that their case would just be continued on the regular dependency track. So I wasn't in a position where I had to go ahead and make the difficult decision like a lot of our dependency judges do every day to whether or not to terminate someone's parental rights. That wasn't something that was in the purview of what I was doing. I was just working with them in the drug treatment aspect.
Got it. So listen, I'd like to take a moment because I was going to ask you about this anyway. I don't know. Stephanie's going to have most likely questions as well, but this is my jam. Stephanie Pointer comes on. She has other areas of interest to cover that are related to persons in office. But so I have with us, thankfully she came on. I got tagged on her incredible. She's been doing this for at least more than 12 years. And she'll come on now and correct me if I'm wrong. But she's got a Springtime Tampa Black Business Buzz Tour, April 20th, 2024, this year, which is being held at the Rebirth Gospel Park, 1924 East Comanche Avenue, Tampa, Florida. I wanted her to come on just to plug that real quickly. And I'm going to ask it in connection with community service with you, Your Honor. Hi.
Hi. Good afternoon. I hope that I am coming in clear. I am in Auburn at the Auburn Spring football game, DJ and I. And thank you, Haiti, for always supporting me in the Black Business Bus Tour and Tea and Conversation. Our next Black Business Bus Tour is April 20th, 2024. And if anyone would like to be a part of it, they can give us a call at 813-394-6363. And of course, we are shy of two years of 20 years in our community going out supporting our Black-owned businesses. And I'm just so excited. I'm always happy to come on and share. And you are doing amazing, Haiti, getting so many people on, and definitely the judges, the people that are running for judge, because it is such a high honor in our community and make a difference in so many people's lives having to come to court. So thank you again for allowing us to be on. And of course, I see you have Judge Matt Smith on. He's been to Tea and Conversation. I can't tell you how many times, and I always appreciate him as well. Again, the Black Business Bus Tour is April 20th. We still have seats available. The number to contact us is 813-394-6363. Again, the number is 813-394-6363.
I'm gonna go ahead and post that. Well, thank you for coming on and promoting that for the community, and you go enjoy your game.
Thank you.
Good seeing you, Candy.
Okay, so community service. Let's just go ahead and address that, since, and I have seen you several times through the photos that are posted on social media with your attendance in that very important community service. That it's 2 years shy of 20 years. She's a staple out there in that area. And it's a great forum to have community people meet up and discuss community issues.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I think community service can take its, can have different hats on, and we try to do a lot of different things. Obviously, a lot of veteran community service is very near and dear to me. I'm a veteran of the United States Air Force. My brother's a veteran of the United States Air Force. Our father is a veteran of the United States Army, so I take that very seriously personally. But just because I served with so many men and women over the time period that I was in the Air Force. So I do a lot with that. MVAC is a great organization. I'd like to plug that. Military Veterans Affairs Committee. It's a subset of the Hillsborough County Bar Association. I know out in Pinellas County, for example, our brothers and sisters at MVAC are working on a stand down for them. I know we do some of that stuff also here in Hillsborough County. Judge Mike Williams is heavily involved in that as well. Who else? We've had a couple other judges that have really done a great job with that. So I try to do a lot of stuff with veterans. I know coming up a tradition that we started. I don't know who started it. Might have been Louis Vieira. He just heavily plugs it. Where we started going out to some of the cemeteries, particularly some of the African-American cemeteries where there's veteran graves, and on Memorial Day weekend or right around there, and we clean them. We did it last year. It's coming up again in May because obviously Memorial Day. That's a great service project. I've been heavily involved in that. We get a lot of people out there. A lot of the mentors that are involved in Veterans Court from Judge Shanti come out there. I know retired Judge Greg Holder comes out there every year, so that's great. So I try to focus a lot of community service on veterans. The other area that I try to do, especially as a sitting judge, is community outreach, is getting out there and informing the public. You had Candy Lowe on there earlier. She's a absolute staple of the community. Tea and Conversations, a great opportunity and a great program that she runs. Second and fourth Saturdays at Al's Finger Licking Soul Food there in Ybor. It's a great opportunity to get out there and meet people from the community, but also as judges to go ahead and educate people. We can't give legal advice. I tell people, when I became a judge, I gave up three things. One, I gave up giving legal advice. Why? Because I'm forbidden from giving legal advice. That's what the judicial canons say. Two, I gave up most of my First Amendment rights. I can't get on Facebook. I can't get on Twitter or X or whatever and say what I think about the governor, what I think about the mayor, what I think about a law, something like that. It's not proper, right? I can't do that. And the last thing, of course, I gave up my keen fashion sense unless I'm in an interview like this where I can wear a nice three-piece suit. But otherwise, I trade in the fashion sense for the one-piece black dress, right, that I wear, when I'm in court. But one of the things that we need to do as judges is we can go out there and tell people what the law is. And I know I was at a Tea and Conversation a couple of weeks ago because one of the things that's come up a lot is landlord-tenant. I mean, look, housing prices, particular rental prices in Tampa are rather high in comparatively to other areas when you take it in conjunction with what salaries are at. And obviously, there's a lot of issues. A lot of injunctions get filed. And so a lot of it is explaining Chapter 83, which is the Florida statute that governs most of residential evictions to people. People don't really understand the process. How does the court registry work? What is the court registry? When do you have to pay into the court registry? What happens if you don't? What is the default judgment? All these things. So I took, about 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so to go ahead and try to explain that, because I know that's been an issue that's come up a couple of times in Tea and Conversation. I saw that the Tampa Times wrote an article recently, or Tampa Bay Times, wrote an article recently about evictions and clogging up kind of the dockets and that stuff. So I think that's a huge part. And I know some other judges have done a great job of that as well. It's getting out in the community in terms of telling people about what the law is, sitting on panels, sitting on, moderating panels, bringing out lawyers. We try to, get out in the community, bring out lawyers, whether they're, lawyers that primarily represent landlords.
Okay, so he froze real quickly. Candy Lowe.
Lawyers that primarily are good option.
It says thank you. No, thank you, Candy, because you know what? As Judge Smith is explaining, the fact that for almost 20 years now, you've been creating the forum, the platform for people to go in person and engage with one another, community members, creating relationships, talking about issues that are important, issues of the day. Thank you for doing that. And, it's always great I've seen you, I've seen Judge Gutman goes regularly, Judge Fuson, I've seen him. I hope I'm not missing anybody else. It's a great opportunity for non-lawyers, citizens to be able to go in and talk to judges. And as you say, you're not going to give legal advice, but at the very least, you're able to inform them about laws and whatnot. Stephanie, go jump in.
Oh, well, you're hitting close to my
Yes.
wheelhouse
Right.
because I'm a property manager and I've been a landlord for 18 years. So with it,
And your husband's a vet.
Yes, my husband is a vet, and he does he volunteers with Veterans Treatment Court as well. So you've hit all everything that goes on at my house on a regular basis, and I always have folks ask me about evictions because I'm a property manager, and I've dealt with one eviction in 18 years, which is extremely rare. So it's fascinating to me to hear more about it, and I guess I'm going to have to come stalk your courtroom and actually watch how it works, because people ask me and I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm pretty good at picking people. That's one of the reasons why I went into property management. But can you tell us, you talked about that they opened up the other court. Can you tell us how the whole housing aspect of the courts have changed since COVID? Because
Okay.
Can you
Absolutely.
talk to us about that a little bit?
I can a little bit. So with COVID, there were a lot of moratoriums on evictions, particularly, and that stopped a lot of evictions, quite frankly. And one of the things in Florida that we do not have, that is in some other states, particularly your westerner states, and I don't mean like just geographically west, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, California. There are reasons to stay evictions, for example, on basically what are humanitarian reasons, purposes, right? Purpose like, hey, someone fell down on the rent, but because they lost a job or they have a medical issue or something like that. Typically, Florida legislation doesn't recognize that. The only time we kind of recognize that was with COVID. And when COVID was hit, you had moratoriums on that. Now, this is not, I think the governor made a statement a long time ago that COVID is over. I mean, obviously the actual, virus is not over, right? People are still getting sick. I think I just had a friend of mine that got sick. But what they mean is a lot of the procedures that were in place, a lot of the emergency procedures and things like that, whether it was the running of the courts, whether it was the application of certain laws, that portion is over with. So COVID has nothing to do with evictions, anymore. That's completely done with. And it's interesting because a lot of people don't know that. It's another, that's why it's a great opportunity here on this program to let people know that, because I'll still get paperwork that's filed by tenants, whether it's an emergency motion to stay in eviction or whether it's in defense of an eviction, and COVID will be cited. And that's, quite frankly, it's just, it's not applicable legally. And that's, not a decision, that's not a decision that an individual court gets to make. It's not like, that's the decision, Matt Smith's courtroom, which is courtroom 12. If you ever want to come visit, first floor of the criminal court annex. I know that throws people off all the time, despite the fact that I'm only sitting on civil divisions right now. My courtroom and my chambers are in the criminal annex, which is, right next door to George Edgecombe, which is the main courthouse. But yeah, that's not my rule. And that's not, the rule of the other 8 or 9 county civil judges. That's, that's statewide. That COVID is no longer applicable anymore when it comes to evictions right now, at least not in Florida.
Okay, Stephanie, any follow up on any other area?
Let me ask you this. This is something I think that people often get confused about. What are some of the big things that folks need to know if they're coming to your courtroom, for no matter which side? Things that they need to be prepared for, because I know I live and breathe city council, and so when people show up the first time, they're not really sure what to do and where to go and how to do things. And are there any common things that folks who come to your courtroom might want to think about before they get there that day?
Absolutely. So a couple things. I mean, obviously, try as best you can to know what you're coming there for, which I think I do a very good job of explaining things to people. I like to talk, quite frankly. And so, and one of the things is in county court, so many people that come in front of me are not represented by a lawyer, right? Someone's not explaining the process to them. So I take that opportunity. Hey, I like to talk a lot. I'm going to explain it to people. So if you're coming to my courtroom, one, get ready because you probably might be there a little while. Like, for example, when I bring people in Division T, which I call citation court or citation land. So that's whether it's animal court, whether it's code court, whether it's any type of a municipal or, county ordinance violation that's not, non-criminalized. The first court date when we bring you all in is arraignment. Now, of course, a lot of people don't ever come to court because they paid their ticket. Yeah, and so number one thing is, if you're coming to court for a citation for one of two reasons. One, because you didn't pay your ticket on time, which is fine. Maybe you wanted to fight it. Maybe you did. You just forgot about it. Or there might have been a problem making payment at the clerk's office. Or number two, certain violations by the county commission or by the city council that are going to be in the code require an appearance. And I explain to people that, look, that's not the judge. I'm not making you be here. It's not the chief judge. It's not Chris Sabella. That comes from the legislation, from the law, quite frankly. Like, for example, if someone has an animal that's been declared dangerous already, which is a separate administrative proceeding, and someone gets a ticket for violating the basically the requirements of having a dangerous animal, you have to pay a $500 registration fee. You have to have certain signs. There's a whole litany of things that you have to do. You get a ticket for that. It's a $500 ticket. Well, that is a mandatory court appearance. It's a civil, it's just an infraction, but you can't just go pay that $500 ticket. They make you come in to see the court. So number one, if you're coming in to see me, get ready because you're probably going to sit down because I'm going to explain a lot of stuff. But that's the first thing. A lot of times the initial court date, people want to go ahead and litigate or fight, whatever. If it's a ticket, if it's their lawsuit, like let's say small claims court, someone's coming in, they hired somebody to, start digging a pool. They gave the guy $5,000 and the guy took off, right? So they want to go ahead and sue that person. Okay. Well, we call them, they're called small claims pretrial, which is the first time that anyone for a small claims case appears. But the name pretrial fools a lot of people, right? Because in criminal court and a lot of other courts, you hear the term pretrial. That's usually the date that immediately precedes an actual trial. But in small claims, that's the first time anyone's coming to court. So a lot of times people come to court and they want to fight their case right then. That almost never happens in court the first time you're there, which is better to be prepared than not be prepared. But I think some people get frustrated with that because they got their documents. Hey, I'm here to show why, I'm not in violation of this. I'm here to show why this guy owes me money, or I'm here to go ahead and I'm ready to go, judge, to show why I don't owe this guy money, right? So that's another thing. So probably be prepared to have to come back at another time. What else? I mean, I'd like to think I run a fairly informal courtroom until we get to the hearings phase, right? When we're going ahead and we're taking evidence. Now, look, obviously we have a lot of pro se, which is self-represented litigants. So, you don't have to know, the rules of evidence like a lawyer would or anything like that. But there needs to be a certain amount of decorum. One of the things I also always explain to a courtroom full of people, which I don't think all the judges do, but they should do, is the first thing I tell them is say, hey, look, I work for you, not the other way around. Look, I traveled around the state. I've been in front of a bunch of judges. Not all judges act that way. In fact, a lot of them act the opposite way. I'd like to think all my brothers and sisters on the bench in Hillsborough County act that way, but I let them know that because people don't necessarily know that. They don't know how their judges are selected. They don't know, what ability they have to be involved in judges staying in their job. So I tell them, I say, look, I work for you. Are you a citizen of Hillsborough County, live in Hillsborough County? I work for you, not the other way around. Very similar to a teacher. Whether your child goes to a private Catholic school or goes to a public school, that teacher works for you to a certain extent. Either you're paying tuition or you're paying property taxes. If you're not paying property taxes, you're paying rent to someone that owns the property that's paying property taxes that are paying teachers. And so I say, but what about teachers? They do work for you, but do you tell them how to do their job, or do you tell your children to listen to the teachers? Do you listen to teachers? Same type of thing. I tell them, I say, look, I understand I have a role to there's a reason why they stick me up on a bench and I'm a little bit higher up. It's not me. There's nothing special about me, but at the end of the day, I'm called to go ahead and I need to adjudicate these cases. I mean, I need to make the decision, and I'm the one that's picked. So I also go ahead and I explain the entire process of how, if you don't like your judges, you can fire your judges. Judges sit 6-year terms, generally speaking, and a third of the judiciary, meaning about 22 judges, are going to be up every election cycle. Now, obviously, someone needs to run against the judge, someone needs to file, and someone needs to qualify, and that person needs to be a member of the Florida Bar and needs to be a member of the Florida Bar for at least 5 years. But judges are up for election. And so I tell them, I'm cognizant of that. Look, you may not get what you want, but what you are going to get is you're going to get a fair hearing, and you're going to get, the amount of time that you need to go ahead and present your case, whether you're trying to sue someone or whether you're trying to defend yourself.
Okay, so listen, if I could just
Eddie.
jump in real quickly, because you know what, if I had a ballot in front of me and I had this decide to vote for you, I did the survey in 2014 and 2015 because some of what you have described, with some judges thinking that I own this bench, it's just my throne, and that's sort of the attitude that they have. And one day I had enough of that. I said, you know what, we're going to do a survey. And it was, some people think that you're not supposed to run against a sitting judge. Well, no, that seat is the seat of the people, the bench. So just by hearing you saying, I work for you, that's what people in office are called, public servants. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like they act like King George III, who we had to liberate ourselves from to establish this wonderful thing we call America. And so they forget that. And so a good reminder is to have persons, I would humbly say as myself, to challenge and not be afraid. What's the other good quote, Thomas Jefferson? If the government fears the people, there's freedom. If the people fear the government, there's tyranny. We're a free country. And you know what? It is a privilege for persons like you to serve. That is a privilege. It's an honorable title. You're called Your Honor. Even persons that don't serve on the bench are called Your Honor. So if I had a ballot in front of me, just by virtue of hearing you say, I work for you.
Right. Absolutely. I'm a big believer in that.
You having that mindset and that attitude. So, which brings us now to demeanor. I always ask persons that are seeking to be voted on any given election cycle that question, because it's important to me. Sometimes I go in front of judges and it's sad. It's sad at their demeanor and how they treat, which it's supposed to be. You're supposed to treat everybody that can and say respect, dignity, courtesy, patience. I believe it says dignity, courteousness, and patience. Talk to me a little bit briefly about demeanor and what that it's supposed to mean to someone.
Absolutely. I think demeanor is very important. And it's interesting that on both those fronts, I think you got into reasons why ultimately, I went through the judicial process to become a judge, was because you would see it. And, again, like I said, I came originally legally. My background, I started off in Tallahassee in the Second Circuit, which we actually had 6 counties over there. I was a prosecutor up there. So I got around literally to all 6 counties. I prosecuted cases in. And then I was down here in Hillsborough in 2005, and I worked at the state attorney's office for 15 years, both under Mark Ober and under Andrew Warren. And then I worked for a year under Nick Cox and Ashley Moody, the attorney general. Nick Cox was a statewide prosecutor, and I traveled around the state. And you see a lot of different judges, and you do see judges that have, maybe on a regular basis, or at least a semi-regular basis, an issue with demeanor, right? And they have an issue with respect, and they have an issue with that they do not act as if, they work for the people, but the other way around. And I've seen it firsthand, and that's why I'm cognizant of it. Now, look, does that mean in terms of demeanor that you're never going to be cross with someone, that you're never going to be stern with someone? No, absolutely not. I think every situation calls for a different demeanor. For example, I'm a very informal person as a general rule, not just with lawyers, but particularly with self-represented people, which we see so much in county court. It's the reason why it's called the People's Court. It's the reason why I stay in county court. And while I've gone ahead, despite people saying, "Hey, have you thought about trying to get elevated to be a circuit judge? Have you thought about being a circuit judge?" I really like county court because you're interacting with the daily people. If I can just kind of make a plug for county court and why it's so important. It's a shame that it's, one of the furthest things down on the ballot is because with all the governmental officials, if you look at any statistics, the one governmental official elected office you're most likely to have contact with on a daily basis or in your lifetime is a county judge, because county judges do so much. It's not a city councilman. It's not a county commissioner. It's not a soil and water preservation person. It's not a mayor. It's not a circuit judge. It's not an appellate judge. It's not a Florida Supreme Court judge. It's none of those. It's not a federal judge. It's a county court judge, because we do so much. For example, let me throw this in there. A lot of people don't realize, if you have a dispute trying to get clear title to a vehicle, maybe you bought it from somebody, you don't, just off of, Facebook Marketplace, something like that. I don't know if they do ads in the back of papers anymore, classifieds. I remember I bought a $500 car, one of the first cars I ever bought, when I was in the Air Force back in the 90s, in the back of the classifieds. Or, maybe there was a death and through probate or otherwise, you get a car and you need clear title. That comes in front of a county judge. A lot of things come in front of county judges, so people don't understand that. But so if I can go to demeanor, so I'm generally a very laid back, relaxed person, particular when discussing with people in court and even lawyers, but now when you get to a hearing and you're really talking about something of real consequence, we're going to go ahead and adjudicate this case on the merits, or we're going to make some legal arguments. Well, then, things need to tighten up a little bit. And the thing is, and one of the things that I've been going to a lot lately is on Fridays, which I think is a great organization, is Cafe Con Tampa, which is at Portico. I think Bill Carlson was kind of the visionary of that, and he used to have it back at the Oxford Exchange. But what I love about going to that is, and I think it was Adele who said it, Del Costa, and he says, it's okay to disagree. It's not okay to be disagreeable. And I've totally ripped it off. I don't know if I give him credit all the time or give Cafe Con Tampa, but I use it all the time in court now, because that's exactly the way you need to conduct yourself. And I even tell you, look, it's okay if you disagree with me. I mean, I have a role here, I have a job, and ultimately I'm going to be the decider and ultimately the adjudicator, unless it's, generally, unless we have a jury trial, then, the jury would obviously be the trier of facts. But so much of what we're doing in a county judge, the judge is deciding. But it's okay even to disagree with me, but it's not okay to be disagreeable. And the same thing when people interact. And so, a lot of people, they don't know how or what the expectations are and how they operate in court. They see things on television, they see things in movies, but then also here we're in county court. And so things are a little bit more informal. So I think demeanor is very important. I think you need to be a regular human being up there. I mean, yeah, you have the black robe on, you're sitting higher than everybody, but you need to be a regular person. I try to talk personally with people as much as I can. One of the things that we do in my courtroom is between cases, particularly on civil days, I play music up there, and I'll even ask people, hey, well, kind of what are they listening to? I'm a big music fan, all types of music, but I'm always interested. Somebody told me an artist and a song when they were walking out, they were lawyers or not, and pulled it up on YouTube and went ahead and played it, when they got out. So I think demeanor is very important. One, you want people to be relaxed because you want them to feel comfortable, but you need to have a patient, kind of even keeled demeanor, because you don't want them to think that you're making a decision because you're angry, because you're upset, you feel sorry for somebody, any of those reasons. I did have an individual in front of me the other day who was extremely rude, extremely disrespectful. He was constantly interrupting me. He was constantly interrupting witnesses. I was going through some of my ruling. He was laughing. He was rolling his eyes. And this is a guy who was an apparently retired military officer. And so I was very stern and very cross with him. And I told him, I said, look, you need to show the court respect. It's not about me. I said, you were in the military just like me. You need to go ahead and respect the rank, not the man. I said, you're in court. You need to respect the robe. You need to respect the decision. It's okay to disagree, but it's not okay to be disagreeable.
And I agree with that. I agree with that, because I'm a big proponent of listen, treat everyone with respect, from the janitor to the CEO, humans, the dignity of a human. You have to respect people. And not to mention that when people go to court, even on a ticket, they're super nervous. They have anxiety. They're scared. And I'm like, this is just a ticket, but they're scared. So
absolutely.
Kindness, we have to try to treat each other with kindness. And I get it. Sometimes it's hard because the way that people behave. And I've seen those moments where a judge will saying they're stern is light. Sometimes they go off, and I have had moments where I'm like, that was appropriate because of what they were getting, which we
Right.
do have to respect the courts. Look what happened last year with that. I was it a state judge? I think it was where the man went and jumped over the bench and attacked the
Yes.
judge. That was horrific.
Yes. Clark
Grabbed her
County.
hair. Yeah, so we have to respect, and if you disagree, you have means of appeal
Mhm.
or a remedy. Okay, so thank you for that. I wanted to just say Lisa and Angela Lanza commented saying thank you, Lisa, for tuning in. Anything did we? It's 1:41. We went like 10 minutes over. It was worth it. A lot of information, a lot of good things that have been discussed. Do you want to leave the voters with any parting words? If Stephanie, if you have any other questions,
I'm tickled pink. I've got 5 pages of notes. So I've learned a lot today, and I'll remember all. I've written it all down so I don't forget anything. And I love Cafe Con Tampa as well. We need to have Dell come on and do a plug for Cafe Con Tampa sometime. We miss it on because we're on Saturdays and they're on Fridays, but we either are Dell or Bill, one or the other. But I agree that Cafe Con Tampa, you can learn a lot there. I haven't been in a month or two. But when things that really influence me are on the agenda, I sure do like to be there. But can you, Matt, do you have any, Judge Smith, do you have any parting words for us that you'd like to speak, make sure it's something you didn't hit that you really wanted to make sure everybody knows about you?
And then August, do you have the dates? Could you say a
August
little bit
4th.
about that for
Sure.
the voters to know if they're going to not vote in person and all those dates?
Okay, so currently I'm up for election, and I have a competition right now, which is filed. So the first date is qualifying. Qualifying is April 26th. It's a Friday at noon. Because what will happen? Candidate needs to file first, which means they go ahead, they open a campaign account, they file their paperwork to Supervisor of Elections, and then they're allowed to raise money. Although you have to have a committee to do that. I have a committee of about 60, 70 people that are doing that for me because we're not allowed to raise money technically ourselves. So that's filing. Qualifying is when you actually pay all the judges at this point, at least the last 20 years, no one's qualified with signatures. Everyone pays the 5% of the annual salary the officer seeking. That's that's April 26th. And that's important because that's when the ballots are going to be set. Who's on the ballot, who doesn't have to run. If no one files or qualifies to run against you, you're elected without opposition. If you do have opposition, that's when it would happen, and people can't jump races from there. Right now, people can jump races. There may be somebody, filing and running against me in Group 22, but they may go ahead and go to Group 21 or whatever. That will happen. So April 26th is the first deadline to really look for in terms of who's actually going to be on the ballot. Then I believe it's mid to the end of July. If you've requested mail-in ballots, those will be mailed out to you. Then the beginning of August starts early voting, which of course you don't have to go to your precinct to do that. You can go in any of the locations, and Supervisor Elections will have those on there, and you can cast an early ballot. But the in-person day of voting is August 20th. August 20th. 2024. It's what is typically called a primary. And the other thing that's important to know is for judges, we're completely nonpartisan. We don't run as Republicans, Democrats, but the more important thing is voters. Even though Florida has what's called closed primaries, judicial races are open to everyone. As long as you're a registered voter, you could be an MPA, non-party affiliate. You could be a third party, a fourth party, a 10th party, a Republican, a Democrat. Doesn't matter. Judicial elections are open to all registered voters in Hillsborough County. So I think that's probably all I wanted to say about the election days. In terms of any closing parting words, I've been on the bench. I'm going into my third year. I started in 2021. I was originally appointed by Governor DeSantis in 2021. That's the December 2021. That's when I started. Before that, I've been a career public servant. I was in the Air Force for 4 years before getting medically discharged. Went to law school at Florida State, go Noles. After that, I worked at the state attorney's office in the Second Judicial Circuit for Willie Meggs. and then continue public service to come down here to Tampa and move and go ahead and start a family. I came down here in 2005, worked for Mark Ober. And then after Mark was defeated by Andrew Warren, stayed on and worked with Andrew Warren's administration for a few years. So overall, 15 years at the state attorney's office down here. And then I worked for a year for Nick Cox, the statewide prosecutor, specifically working for Ashley Moody, our elected attorney general. And then I was appointed in 2021. I love my job. I love being a public servant. I love being a man of the people, and I love county court. I think we've done a good job for the 26, 28 months I've been in office. I would love to continue doing that job and serving the people of Hillsborough County for another 6 years. And I think that's probably everything.
Okay, so can you kindly, Judge, give me the URL, the domain address to your
Sure. Our website's judgemattsmith.com. Very simple. judgemattsmith.com. And a couple other campaign. If anyone has any campaign information they want to email to, our official registered campaign site is Juez Mas, which obviously is a play on my role as well as my initials, MAS. So juezmas@gmail.com is our filed email address. Also, there's a couple other email addresses for the committee and other things that are on the website.
Hold on. And I had my Cuban coffee this morning. Hold up. So judgemattsmith.com, that's your website for your campaign. And then if they want to email you, it's Juez Mas. I like it. I like the Spanish, and I think your wife is Hispanic. Yes?
And both my kids, yes, at gmail.com.
MAS or MAZ?
MAS, my initial.
Oh, I apologize. That was wrong.
So it's a little play, right? Juez Mas, like, more judge, because who doesn't want Mas, right? Everyone wants Mas, right? And then, of course, that's also my initials. MAS.
I shouldn't be having Mas comida, food.
We all need Mas comida. Come on. If it's good, you need Mas.
So I'm going to delete the Z. It's not the Z. That was my error. I'll go ahead and I'm going to delete that. But it's Juez. This is it. If you want to contact the committee or the campaign team, juezmas@gmail.com. I'm going to delete the other one because it's an error. Okay. Anything else? Are we forgetting?
I don't think so. I mean, you mentioned my wife, Roxana Solis.
She's an attorney.
She is an attorney.
I hear she's a very good attorney.
She is. We used to have cases against each other before we started dating, back when she was at the PD's office and I was at the state attorney's office. And have a little shout out to my daughter, Penelope, who's 10, who's going on 28. She's something else. And then Max is our 4-year-old who's he's a lot. He's a lot.
Okay, well, thank you for coming on. Haiti Oropesa with Florida Judge Stephanie Pointer. Everyone have a great weekend.
Thank you very much. Have a great day. Thank you so much for having me on.